Hello there! Our topic for today will all be about the writing of the first chapter and preliminary pages of your research paper. The first one, we have the preliminary pages. So first on the list, we have the cover page, or also called as the title page of the research paper that contains all key information about the entire document. So here, the uppermost level includes the department and institution, followed by the title of your paper, and next, this next spacing will be allotted as to where the paper will be presented. And the third level requires your master's degree and the course intended for submission. And lastly, the lower level of the paper is designed for the author's name and the month and year of degree conferral. Now, we have the checklist for the title page, or we have here the tips to remember. We have, first, the title of the document uses all caps and centered on first line beneath top margin. Second, use the same font style throughout the document. Third, author's name is the same as what appears on the abstract and approval page. And lastly, the date listed reflects the current semester of publication. Second, we have the approval sheet. This is the second page of the document and it also follows an official standard. This is to prove that the authors have passed the requirements needed for the research or thesis. This is signed by the research advisor, censor, panel, and the dean. This also states the grade or remarks obtained by the researcher or the author. We have here a note. All committee members' name on the approval page should be spelled correctly and have appropriate credentials under each person's name. So fourth on the list, we have the acknowledgement page. So the acknowledgement section is where you thank those who have helped and supported you during the research and writing process. So we have the professional and personal acknowledgement. So preferably, it exercises the liberty to be personal to reflect the sincerity of your gratitude. Also includes main objectives, detailed methodology, conclusions, and compound research questions. Abstract needs to include source references and acronyms. It allows describing the top point of a dissertation paper or research paper, providing a good understanding of the studied subjects and discovering numerous outcomes. So the bottom part should include the keywords. So moreover, the most common error in abstract is failure to present results. Second, the primary function of your paper is not to tell readers what you did, it is to tell them what you discovered. And next, approximately the last half of the abstract should be dedicated to summarizing, interpreting your results, and most importantly, the implications. Now, we have the key elements of a research abstract. Number one, we have the aims. First, define the purpose of your research. Second, what research question did you aim to answer? Third, brief context on the social or academic relevance of your topic. Fourth, state the objective of your research. And fifth, it can be written in the present or past simple tense but should never refer to the future. Second, we have the methods. Mention the research method that you used to answer your question. This part should be a direct description of what you did in 1 or 2 sentences. It's usually written in the past simple tense as it refers to completed actions. Next, there is no need to evaluate validity or obstacles that you might have encountered in this part because the goal is not to give an account of the methodology's strengths and weaknesses, but to give the reader a quick insight into the overall approach and procedures you used. Third, we have the results and conclusions. Summarize the main research results. Second, highlight only the most important findings that will allow the reader to understand your conclusions. Third, provide the main conclusions of your research. Fourth, if relevant, you can briefly make suggestions for further research. Now, we have the table of contents and list of figures. So, the table of contents is this section is a reference tool that allows your readers to quickly and easily navigate the data in your research. It is an organized listing of the chapters and major sections of your document. Readers will be able to see how your manuscript is organized and then skip down to sections that are most relevant to them. First, the things that we need to know. First is that it should be appropriately formatted. Next, list all figures and specifications in the document except those listed on any appendices. Next, all titles must exactly match what appears in the text, and all page numbers must be correct. Now we are down to the second topic, the writing of the first chapter. First and foremost, we have the introduction. So there is no fixed format, but you are encouraged to write the introduction to form a logical funnel, where more general aspects are told first and sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, proceeding into more details. Good writing is the key to successful research paper. Your writing should be clear, cohesive, and straight to the point. The introduction leads the reader from a general subject area to a particular topic of inquiry. It establishes the scope, context, and significance of the research being conducted by summarizing current understanding and background information about the topic, stating the purpose of the work in the form of the research problem supported by hypothesis or a set of questions, explaining briefly the methodological approach used to examine the research problem, highlighting the potential outcomes your study can reveal, and outlining the remaining structure and organization of the paper. However, it is often useful to review the introduction late in the writing process. This is appropriate because outcomes are unknown until you've completed the study. Reviewing and, if necessary, rewriting the introduction ensures that it correctly matches the overall structure of your final paper. Second, we have the theoretical framework. So by framing your research within a clearly defined field, you make the reader aware of the assumptions that inform your approach, showing the rationale behind your choices. This part of your paper lays the foundations that will support your analysis, helping you interpret your results and make broader generalizations. So remember, the names of authors of the theory must be taken including the place and the time or year when he or she postulated the principle. So how to create a theoretical framework? First, identify your key concepts. Second, evaluate and explain relevant theories. Third, show how your research fits in. So let's discuss that one by one. First, identify your key concepts. The first step is to pick out the key terms from your problem statement and research questions. Concepts often have multiple definitions, so the theoretical framework involves clearly defining what you mean by each term. Second, evaluate and explain relevant theories. As you write the theoretical framework, aim to compare and critically evaluate the approaches that different authors have proposed. After discussing different models and theories, you establish the definitions that best fit your research and justify why this is the case. Thirdly, show how your research fits in. Apart from discussing other people's theories, the theoretical framework should show how your own project will make use of these ideas. If relevant, you can use the theoretical framework to develop hypotheses for your research. Now we have the conceptual framework. So it consists of investigator's own position on a problem after his exposure to the various theories that has bearing on the problem. The conceptual framework becomes the central theme, the focus, the main thrust of the study. It serves as a guide in conducting the investigation. So a systematic diagram is a diagrammatic representation of a conceptual framework. It depicts in a more vivid way what the conceptual framework wants to convey. It becomes the visual representation of an expected relationship between variables. Now we have the statement of the problem. This is where you tell the reader about the research problem, which is a statement about an area you are concerned about, a condition that you feel should be addressed, a difficulty that you want to eliminate, an issue or question that exists in the literature you have read, or something troubling encountered in your practice. The aim is to provide an understanding on why your research topic is important. You could quote or cite published journals, articles to point out the importance, preferably the recent ones. Also, the researchers should try to describe the idealistic condition and describe what problem is stopping the ideal success or situation from happening. Problem statement is normally a situation demanding a solution, betterment or modification, or disagreement between the way things are and the way they're supposed to be. So remember, do not confuse the research problem with the thesis topic. The topic is something to read and obtain information about, whereas the research problem is something to be solved or framed as a problem that must be answered. Next, we have the hypothesis. A hypothesis is a proposed explanation for the occurrence of a specified phenomenon. Some authors suggest that hypotheses should essentially be adopted in experimental or quasi-experimental research methods where the independent variable can be manipulated during the study in order to create an effect on the developed independent variable. Next, we have the scope and limitations of the study. It shows clearly the degree of content that will be covered by the researcher to be able to come to a more reasonable conclusions and give adequate answers to the research questions. Scope of the study must often shows how far the study area has been explored and key factors the study will be operating in. Next, it indicates as soon as possible what you intend to do and what you are not going to attempt. You may limit the scope of your paper by any number of factors. For example, time, personal, gender, age, geographic location, nationality, and so on. Now we have the significance of the study. So the rationale, timeliness, and or relevance of the study to existing conditions must be explained or discussed. This will also entail who are to be benefited and how are they going to be benefited. It must be shown who are the individuals, groups, or parties who may be placed in a more advantageous position on account of the study. Next, and the last one, we have the definition of terms. Only terms, words, or phrases which have special or unique meanings in the study are defined. Terms should be defined operationally. How are they used in the study? And the researcher may also develop his own definition from the characteristics of the term defined. So definitions should be brief, clear, and unequivocal as possible. Acronyms should always be spelled out fully. So thank you so much for listening. That would be all for my topic about the writing of the first chapter and preliminary pages. Wishing you all to be safe and in good hands. Thank you and have a good day.